Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hopefully you'll stick around, and if not, welcome back. Again, I repeat myself a lot. I'm so sorry. I know it can be very annoying. But today we are here to do the mid-year freak out book tag. I also want to look through my stats for the year. I've had pretty good, I wouldn't say I've had a pretty good reading year actually. I've read a lot of books, but not a lot of good books. So yes, I also want to just look at that, and I feel like that's always a fun way to kind of like check in mid-year. I love this tag so much. I watch everyone else's tags for this. Anyway, let's just get right into the questions and then we'll get into more statistics stuff. So the first one is best book you've read so far in 2024. So for this one, I picked Sally Rooney's Normal People. I was not expecting this, but this has been one of those 5-star reads that honestly earned it a lot. Like, I loved this book so much. I read it about a few months ago now, and I'm still thinking about it. I love the relationship in here. I love everything about this book. I've just loved it more. This time has gone past since I've picked it up. Since I've read it more and more, I keep thinking, yeah, that's a very good book. Yep, it's a good book. Yes, yes, it is. It is so good. And I feel like I've been missing out for so long because it's been on my shelves for about 3 years. It's been out for a lot longer than that, and I've never bought into the hype, and now I really wish I had. And I'm so glad that I've read it. It honestly is just such a good book. It is about Connell and Marianne, who grow up together in this little village in Ireland, and they start up a romance, but one of them is ashamed of the other, and the other one just kind of gives herself completely to him. She doesn't really care. And it's just about their relationship throughout their years, throughout their college years, throughout their adulthood, and it's just very sad. It's right person, wrong time so often, and to the point where you're not even sure if they're really supposed to be together, if they're really good for each other. It's just so good, and there's not really much plot, really. It is more just characters and following their lives. We do get the dual POV, and it is just very good. I just really like it, and I hope if you were ever doubting in reading this, you should read it because I loved it so much. I really liked it. Really also one of my biggest surprises as well. But yeah, I loved it so much. So yeah, best sequel you've read so far in 2024. And for this one, I just had to go with Karasty's Curse by T.S. Scheffler, and this is the 6th book in the Cat's Eye Chronicles series. Okay, so in my previous vlog, I'm pretty sure I said that I wanted to reread the series, and I did, but I was facing a point where I was reading so many books that I just did not enjoy that I picked this up on a whim and read it within 5 hours or something like that. I skimmed through all the boring parts and just got to the parts that I was interested in, but I still overall got the idea because I've been waiting for this book for so long. 5 stars off the bat immediately. I just love the world, love the characters, I love the romance. I loved T.S. Scheffler's writing so much. I feel like those 6 years, it feels like I've been waiting 6 years for this book, and I don't know if I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I feel like I have been waiting 6 years for this book. Maybe a little bit less, but definitely 4 years. I definitely have been waiting. And I loved it so much. It is so good. I love the Cat's Eye Chronicles so much, and I wish it had got more hype because it is an indie published fantasy. If you like slow burn and you like romance being a good part of the plot, this series is very good, and I just am so happy to be back with these characters, to be back in this world. I love it so much. It's not a difficult fantasy world. It's very easy to grasp, and it makes sense. It's not badly done or anything, and the romance is just written so well, and I loved it so much. I really liked it, and I hope people pick it up more. Please, 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 because it was so good. It was so good. Can you tell that I really like this book? Because I did. I really liked it. So yeah, this one is my pick. The next prompt is new release you haven't read yet but want to. And for this one, I'm going to go to one of the early ones that was released this year, and that is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. This is the 3rd book in the Crescent City series, and it is the only one that I've left on the series. Now, the problem is that although I've read House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath, I don't remember anything about them. I remember the beginning and the end of both books. I don't remember anything that happens in between, and I feel like I should know what happened, kind of. I mean, I feel like I know the important parts, but I kind of want to reread that series. Really do desperately need to reread that series because I don't remember half of the stuff that goes down, and I don't remember half of the characters in it. But I've also not heard the best things about this particular Sarah J Maas book, which kind of doesn't make me want to read it any quicker. So at some point I will get to it, but I have not gotten to it yet. If you're not familiar, Crescent City, it's like kind of like an urban fantasy vibe, but it's definitely like in a different city, like in a different world, which is fun, I guess. I don't know, it's part of the Sarah J Maas verse. The first one is very good. I remember not liking the second one so much, so we'll see where I land on this one. I feel like I will land like everyone else and not really like it that much, but I'll have to read it to find out. So yeah. The next prompt is most anticipated release for the second half of 2024. And for this one, I am putting down The Darkness Within Us by Tricia Levenseller. This is the second book that goes after The Shadows Between Us, which, yes, was supposed to be a standalone, but isn't. Now, I'm not big on new releases. I don't really keep up with new releases. I mainly keep up with like authors, obviously, and I don't keep up with a lot of authors, and a lot of the ones that I was kind of like anticipating have been released already. So this is the only one that I've like looked and seen that is being released in the next half of the year. So that's why it's the one I'm putting down the list. I'm not like extremely excited about it, but I am low-key a little bit excited about it because I really did enjoy the first book, which is The Shadows Between Us, I'm pretty sure it's called. Anyway, this one where we follow a girl who tries to win the heart of the Shadow King on purpose because she wants to kill him and take the crown and the reign and and take over for herself, which is kind of like badass. And honestly, it's not the best thing you'll ever read, but it is such a fun time. Like, I love Tricia Levenseller's book just to have like a fun romance, a fun fantasy romance time. I enjoy them so much. Like, they're very quick to get through. I just have a fun time. Like, I'm not going to tell you they're the best fantasy books ever written. They're the best characters ever fleshed out. No, but they're a fun time, and if you go in with the mindset of I just want to like pass the time, they will entertain you very much. You will end up liking the characters a lot more, knowing what you're getting yourself into. So yes, that's why I'm anticipating the next one. The next prompt is biggest disappointment, and for this one I'm going to go with A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Now listen, it's not that I didn't enjoy this book, it's that I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Very different concepts here. Because I think I overall gave this book 5 stars on Goodreads, but I think it's more of a 4 stars. It doesn't matter. The reason why this kind of like ended up on my disappointing list is because I'd heard Emma from Emmy Reads absolutely love this book, and that's literally why I went down and bought it, actually. And then a year later I like read it for the first time, and I was reading a lot of Ernest Hemingway books, and it's not the one, and I thought this would be the one that I liked the most, but it didn't ended up being the one I liked the most, which is kind of like where my surprise was at and like why. It's a little bit autobiographical because we do follow things that happen to Ernest Hemingway, but I didn't like throughout the whole story kind of like what was happening. I feel like nothing was happening. The ending is like very impactful. It did almost make me cry, but not enough, I feel. And I don't know, I just didn't really like the characters. I can't remember much about what happens in between like this portion. I feel like I can't remember much, and that's why I know objectively it's a good book. I know it's a good story. I know the writing is very good. But it's not as good as I wanted it to be, which is why I'm putting it as my disappointed book. But that doesn't mean it's a bad book, because I did give it 5 stars because I know it's a good book. And I wouldn't say love, but I did sob at the ending. The ending surprised me. I wasn't expecting that. I thought the beginning was very good and stuff. But if you did not know, this is set in 1918 when a young man volunteers for the Italian kind of like ambulance part of the military, and he gets injured and he needs a nurse, and it's like their romance and him having to go back to war or like running away from it, and it's good. It's just not the best, I think, of Ernest Hemingway's works, but that's my very humble opinion. I know it's very well loved. The next one is biggest surprise for 2024, and I'm gonna go with A Castle in the Clouds by Kirsten Year. Now, this also comes from the recommendation of Emmy from Emma Read. In this one we follow Sophie, who is interning at this hotel which is set in the middle of the Alps mountains. So it's like this cozy kind of ski cabin, and it's just like her life at this very, I don't know, I love it. It's a winter wonderland coziness hotel, and just her life and how all the people she works with, the people who are clients there, the people who are staying there, the people she meets there, this cat that just kind of wanders around that isn't supposed to be there. It's such a fun time. But the reason it's such a surprise is because I had read the Kirsten Year, the Precious Stone trilogy this year also, and I gave it around 3 stars every book because they weren't bad, but they were very cringy, and I didn't love them overall. But I felt like, also being the same author, I felt like this one would be very much like that, but it wasn't. It was so much better. It was so well done. I wasn't expecting to like it so much because, like, I do like the snow and all that, but I wasn't expecting to find it as charming as I did. I didn't know coziness was like my kind of vibe, but it very much is, if this is what coziness is, because that's what it feels to me. And it was so random, the plot. It was so fun. It was just a fun book that I wasn't expecting it to be. I thought it would be more of a serious, heartfelt book or something. I don't know what I was expecting, but it just surprised me how much I loved it. And I didn't even like the romance in this, which is odd for me because I love romance, but the romance in it wasn't like the predominant thing that I liked it. I just liked all the different characters and how random they were and how, like, oh, I just loved them. It was all so charming. I would have read about, like, her life in this hotel for days on end. I loved it so much. So yeah, this is also another 5-star reads from the recommendation of Emma. So yes, the next prompt is new favorite author, and for this one I'm gonna go with Sally Rooney because I did read all 3 of her books this year: Normal People, Beautiful World, Where Are You, and Conversations with Friends. And I overall really enjoyed the experience. I loved her writing style so much. I love the topics that she handles. I love the way some part of me always felt connected to some of the characters. I know she's coming out with another one soon. Like, she recently announced another book, which is gonna be madness when it comes out. But anyway, I'm just really happy that I kind of finally read these books that I've been hearing about for years, that I know a lot of people love, and that is very polarizing whether you like her or love her or hate her. So yeah, that's who I went with. The next one is newest fictional crush, and I was looking at all the books that I read and I don't really have a crush. Like, I couldn't find a new one, but I kind of rekindled my love for another particular crush, and that is for, or also known as, Tobias Eaton from the Divergent series, which I recently reread the whole series, and there should be a video up either before or after this one, so look out for that, I guess. But I recently reread those and I had forgotten how much I love For and Tobias. That was insane. Like, my little 16-year-old self was like screaming her head off, and I was still screaming my head off. I loved every interaction here. A big part of why I like him so much is because my head is riddled. Like, it is very much because I have fan casted him. Well, not really fan casted. He's casted in the movie. So, like, Theo James is who I have in my head while I'm reading this man's actions. So, you know, like, he was just the ultimate book boyfriend. Honestly, he was my love when I was like 12, and I just reinvigorated myself now, which is kind of hard, but yeah, you know, why not? Like, he's a fun character. He didn't, honestly, to me, he can do no wrong. Even though I don't like how his character ended up being in the very, very last novella, in an epilogue that was totally unnecessary, but we don't talk about that. I'm gonna pretend like that doesn't exist, so do not bring it up. But Tobias Eaton is definitely my rediscovered fictional crush, because out of the books that I've read recently, like over the past 6 months, I don't really have a new fictional crush that I'm like obsessed with, except for him, so I feel like it can. The next one is newest favorite character, and with this one I had a hard time because a lot of the characters that I was reading from the books I didn't love them. Like, they were interesting to read about, and like I loved the gossip tea, but I just didn't love the characters like in themselves, and I had a hard time picking one out. But I finally did decide on Rebel Rising, the main character, which is Jyn Erso, which I feel like is kind of shouldn't be valid for this prompt, but whatever. Jyn Erso. This is Rebel Rising. This is like a prequel to the movie, the Star Wars movie called Rogue One, which is my favorite Star Wars movie ever. It can do no wrong. So obviously the backstory, a YA sci-fi backstory of my favorite movie character. Obviously I'm gonna like the prequel. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. It was such a fun story. A lot of like context for why Jyn was in a prison in the beginning of the first movie. It does explain a lot of her character and like a lot of her, like the way she acts and how she behaves. It makes a lot more sense once you've read it. And it is canon, so it's a great time. And I just love Jyn Erso so much. I loved her in the movie, and I loved her in this book. So yes, that's my favorite character, new favorite character. The next one is book that made me cry. Okay. I know this is not the most beloved book ever, especially on BookTube. People do not like this book. But while I was rereading it, I got really emotional at the very end, okay? And that is Allegiant. Allegiant by Veronica Roth, and this is the 3rd book in the Divergent series, which everyone knows is like the worst ending to a book ever. No one likes it. It's not beloved, let's just say, and I had honestly no qualms with it when I was first reading it, and even the second time reading it, and this time reading it, like I recently reread this and I was like, okay, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I don't feel like it was terrible, but like then I compare it to Divergent and I see, okay, fine, it's kind of like very bad, but let's just like not think about that. Now I don't know if this is a spoiler, but but like you've been warned if it is a spoiler, but it's been out a while, so I feel like it shouldn't be. But anyway, one of the characters dies, and that honestly doesn't make me sad, but it is reading the chapters, because there's dual POV here, so reading the other person's perspective broke me. I was so like, I felt so bad for this other character who had to be like, I loved her, like, I feel like the whole world is crashing down upon me, like, I loved it so much. It made me so sad. I felt so bad for this character, and I just wanted to be there and hug him. And yes, it honestly, like, even if most of the book is pretty badly written, the last chapters are the best thing as ever. I love them so much. They make me so emotional, which is why I'm pretty sure I end up always giving this a higher rating than it probably deserves. But you can't fault me for that, because I love it so much and I feel so bad for the characters. And it did. I was surprised at how emotional I was getting while reading these last few chapters. So yes, and the next one is book that made you happy. And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm just talking about the same thing over and over again, but the book that has made me the most happiest while reading it, that I have not yet mentioned, because I would obviously go with Caressed is Cursed, because I was so happy reading that, but I'm trying not to like use the same book twice, and technically this is a different book, but it's the first book in the series, and that is Divergent. I was so happy reading this. I cannot explain just how happy I was. I felt like I was back in this that teenage sci-fi era. I was back being 12 years old without a worry in the world. Just reading this made me feel so happy. I was like following a character that I do genuinely love in this first book, following a romance that I was obsessed with, a world that to me seemed very interesting at the time, and I just loved it so much. I had such a fun time. It's such a great time rereading this. So yes, that's sorry, it is not the most original concept, but I had a really fun time rereading this series, if you cannot tell. So yes, the next prompt is favorite book to movie adaptation you've seen so far, and I have seen quite a few. So the first ones that I want to mention are the Ruby Red movies. I did mention Kristen Gear, but I haven't mentioned these movies specifically. So yeah, I'm going to mention them now, because I watched these movies and that is what made me want to read the books. I low-key really like these movies. They're such a fun time. They're German. They're in German, by the way, but that doesn't matter. Now, I do think they did change a lot of what happens in the books to the movies, but I feel like in the movies it makes more sense, and at the same time it's still crazy what happens in the movies. But if you read the books, you'll think, okay, yeah, the movies make a lot more sense of why they changed some things. And they're not the perfect movies, but they're just so fun to watch. Again, can you tell I just want good vibes and like fun times? Something entertaining to watch that I don't have to like really think about. Because these films are just so much fun and I really do enjoy them. I've enjoyed them for a long time. And they're just the romances again. I really like the characters in them. It's a crazy wild time and I think it is very fun. So yeah, do with that information what you will. The most beautiful book you bought this year, or gifted, because I did not buy this book myself. And I haven't really been buying that many books, actually. I was gonna say, I'm trying to get it out, sorry. I was gonna say House of Flame and Shadow, but honestly, it's gonna be between these two because I just love the covers so much. So we've got The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. I don't have any special editions, by the way. These are just the standard covers. Sorry. But The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. Like, look at this cover. It is gorgeous, and I love the fact that it matches perfectly with my Six Crimson Cranes book. But like, this is stunning. Like, it has nothing else that is special except for maybe like the spine. I do like the spine on the naked hardback, but like, oh my god. And it's got some of the gold foiling. Oh, I just love it so much. And this is the second book to the Six Crimson Cranes duology, where it's kind of like a retelling. Well, it's not kind of, it is a retelling about the six swans. I don't know what it is. I've seen it so many different places, but it's a retelling of the story of a witch stepmother cursing all the sons not to turn into cranes, and then the daughter is left not being able to talk, otherwise like the curse cannot break, and she can't talk for like a year. I know it's a retelling of that. I haven't actually read it yet, but I love the covers, and obviously it's like set kind of it's set in Asia more than in the West, so this is going to be very interesting and I can't wait to read it. I got that for my birthday, and also and another cover that I really like is Night of the Witch by Sarah Ash and Beth Revis. Also got this for my birthday, and I just look at that detail on the cover is insane. I love it so much, and I also kind of really like the spine that it's green, and it is a bright ass green, and I do like it. I like the matte cover, the buttery kind of feeling, and I like the end pages being like this marbly swirly kind of thing, and also the headers for the chapters are very cute as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go with this one, and this one is about like a witch and a witch hunter romance. I feel like it's gonna be the same as Serpent and Dove, but I haven't actually read that book yet, so I don't know. That's all I know. It's a witch and a witch hunter romance, and that's all I really need to know. And now for the final question is books you need to read by the end of this year. And I don't really have a set TBR of books that I want to get done throughout the year, but I was looking at my shelves and I realized I really do want to read this book, and it is Circe by Madeline Miller. This is the retelling of Circe from the Greek legends, and this is about, I'm pretty sure, the first witch ever. I'm not 100% sure about that though. But yeah, I've had this book on my shelves for years, and I know it's good, so I don't have an excuse for not picking it up. So I will at some point hopefully pick this up, also with the Song of Achilles, but that's for Circe. Circe is kind of like the one I'm more interested in, so yeah, hopefully I will pick it up. And so that is the end of the book tag questions. Let's just get into some stats really quickly. I have read so far, while you're watching this video, well, while I'm filming this video, 83 books, which honestly, pretty good for me. Actually, it isn't. I've read more than that last year, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but I am very happy to have read so many books. Obviously, number is relative. Like, I haven't been reading that many good books, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I track my reading through Storygraph and Goodreads mostly, and I also have a reading journal, but they correlate with what Storygraph and Goodreads say, and I haven't been able to find every single book that I read on Storygraph. Just to give you an idea of the type of books that I read, are very weird. But so Storygraph says that I've read 72 books, while Goodreads puts 83 books, and I have read 83 books because I know that I put all my Goodreads ones there, all my books there, but I can't always find them on Storygraph, which is a little disappointing. But overall, Storygraph says I've read 16,000 pages, which means that I've just read a lot of short books, honestly. So it doesn't really mean much to me. I count them more in books, but whatever. Let's get into the moods, because from what I can see, I've read a lot of adventurous, mysterious, adventurous, lighthearted, mysterious, emotional, and reflective books are the top 5, which I feel like doesn't really change it. Adventurous is always my like biggest one, but lighthearted? I didn't know I was reading a lot of lighthearted books. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Or reflective. What does reflective count? Page number, this is what I was saying, that I know I've been reading a lot of short books, so 72% of the books that I read are less than 300 pages, and only 7% is 500 pages, and then there's like a 20% that is between 300 and 500. I feel like as we progress throughout the year, I'm going to be reading a lot more bigger books, just because like it's what I'm in the mood for. But yeah, I don't really know what to do with that information. And then non-fiction to fiction. I mean, I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I am surprised that I've got 10% better than I've done other years, honestly. But I didn't realize I was reading like so many nonfiction books. But anyway, yeah, I'm happy with that. I would be fine if like this graph doesn't change. I'd be fine with it. But I don't think that it's not going to change, because I know I read a lot more fiction than nonfiction. But still interesting to see. Then my top 5 genres are romance, young adult, children's, manga, and classics. Which is odd, because I feel like I haven't been reading a lot of classics, but then I forget that I did read a lot of Ernest Hemingway books. But I feel like that shouldn't be enough, right? But whatever. Romance first does surprise me, but then I realize that a lot of the books that I read are considered like heavily predominantly romance books, so that's why a lot of them are in the romance category, as well as young adult, which is no surprise there. I love YA. And then children's. What did I read that was children's? Oh yeah, I read the Ruby Redford series, which is why that's considered children. Okay, yeah. And manga, I did read a whole manga series at the beginning of the year, so yeah, that makes sense. Then most read authors. Okay, yeah, see, this is where it comes up. My most read author is Lauren Child, who, if you did not know, is the author of Charlie and Lola, which were like my that's what I read growing up, really. So that's no surprise there, because I did read a 6-book series about her. They were like which was the Ruby Redford series, and I did read a lot of her kind of other books in the Clarice Bean series. I'm still missing a few of those, but I did read a few of them just for funsies there. Then Mika Yamamori is the author of Daytime Shooting Star, which is manga right here. Is that the right way up? No. sorry, this manga right here. I read the whole thing. I read the whole thing at the very start of the year. So, and that's like 11 volumes. So that's why I have so many books by him. Then we've got Ernest Hemingway, no surprise there. And then Veronica Roth, yes, because I read the Divergent series, and that's like 3 books plus 4, and I'm also reading a few more of her books actually. I read the Carve the Mark duology, like no surprise there. And then Kristen Gear, I also read quite a fair amount of books there. I read 4 of her books, but like, fair enough. So yeah, no real surprise there. I kind of forgot. I feel like it's funny because I read both, like Mika Yamamori, I read that in January, and I've totally forgotten that I'd read that, so yeah. Then this graph, again, it doesn't really show me much other than like if I read bigger books, the graph changes. Like there's a lot of separation within like the books I read and the number of pages that I read, because like for example in February, while I was reading less books, I was reading more pages, and the same thing happens in June, as you can see. And that's really all that I'm kind of like interested in learning about and seeing. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed seeing my stats for the half year. Let me know about your stats. Let me know what you've been reading. If you want to answer any of the book question tags, I would be more than happy to read those comments. All the links that I have for Goodreads and Instagram are down below if you're ever interested or curious. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye!